All right, that's good. Good morning. Good morning. I jumped on a little early to make sure that it's coming through. So I'm going to just check it out in the group here. Learning as I go along. Thank you, wonderful Jamie Path, for many weekly meetings of trying to navigate this stuff. Yay, there I am. All right, great. I have a little helper today who I thought she was going to behave in my room. Looks like there's a little delay. My room. Looks like there's a little delay. My room. Looks like there's a little delay. All right, if we get dog nonsense, we'll survive it. uh, yeah, I'll be an expert by the end of the week now that I'm learning. So here we go. I am gonna go. Here we go. I was seeing the group and you guys, and I didn't want to do that. All right, we got one more minute and um, we'll get going. Just a little trick. I don't know if this is a value to you or not, but when I am watching replays, I tend to set up there's playback settings and I tend to go faster. I mean, part of the theme is taking care of yourself and making time for yourself. But if you're crunched on time, and you need to save it to do your me first homework, well, you have a little trick. Of course, my internet connection is unstable because I'm talking right now. Okay, well, this is Sassy. She's going to help me this morning. And it is 9:30, so I am going to get going. I have a little cheat sheet here, and I wanted to talk to you today about why I'm putting this challenge on, why it's important, share with you some of the things I've either seen or heard from guests and people in my life. Oh, she's going to be entertaining. Um, and bring awareness to us being able to take care of ourselves. And we have to take care of ourselves first. And I hope I don't burst anybody's bubbles today, but at the end of the day, we are the only ones who could and should care about ourselves as much as we do. We may think other people are as invested in us as we are, but at the end of the day, it's not. I think of when I went to rehab and there was a handful of people that knew, but I was off social media for a month and nobody noticed I was missing for a month. Um, but in my head, I thought the world was going to stop. And we tend to have these thoughts, whether conscious or unconscious, about how important our roles are in other people's lives. And don't get me wrong, if you're a parent or a spouse or a friend, you have to have active participation in other people's lives. But what I really want to drive home this week is about how to take care of yourself first, which will then lead you to be a better acting participant in these other people's lives. It'll make you a better spouse, a better parent, a better all the things. Um, I took down so here's the itinerary for today. We're going to talk about who we want to be and like what makes us happy today. And I'm going to give you some homework, which don't worry, it won't be earth shattering, but I would really uh, encourage you to really give it some thought about who you want to be, and what you want to get after the 5 days. So one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to pick our name. So I go by Bobbie the Awesome, and I didn't even introduce myself when I started, but I think most of you know me. But I go by Bobbie the Awesome, and there's two reasons I go by Bobbie the Awesome. One is because I believe in those negative voices in our heads that they're always trying to tell us a story and a script that is not always in our best interest. So when I go to record a podcast or I hand out my business card or whatever it is that I'm announcing myself, Bobbie the Awesome, whether it's comfortable or uncomfortable, whether I feel awesome that day or not, I go through with it to kind of combat those voices in my head and remind myself I am awesome. The other part of it is setting setting the goal of what is it? What does awesome mean to me? How does that work in my life? Um, and focusing on the value of the wins instead of the losses and moving forward. Me doing it first, I hope. And this is why I made it the first assignment, and this is why we did it on grand opening day on such a smaller level. But I'm giving you permission to listen to the positive voices. Sometimes we don't want to. Those negative voices win. And here's a little secret. Most of those negative voices are not your own. They're from things that you've acquired through life, other people's voices getting in your head, other people's doubt. It could be from grade school when someone said you were ugly. What does a 5-year-old know or a 7-year-old know, right? Like kids just don't know any better. But that I'm ugly, I'm ugly, I'm ugly might show up. Or I look fat today, I look fat today. I was watching Ugly Betty last night, and it was about the models and how having too skinny of models in print, these girls in school were taking a tour and seeing all these skinny models, and they all threw away their lunches. Well, how is that even rational? It's because it was the magazine's voice in their head or what they think the expectations of others is. And I really want you to take some ownership of what your voices are saying and who you want to be. So, Bobbie the Awesome to me means, how am I awesome? Am I awesome because I didn't fail or stumble or trip or make mistakes? No. Why I'm awesome is because I get back up, like Justin says, from Blue October. I am awesome because I keep trying. I'm awesome because I have self-awareness. I'm awesome because I can have those hard conversations. Um, I'm gonna I have some notes here to share with everybody on what I planned, but I may just share with you impromptu stories that show up. Like just now, when I was saying I can have those conversations, sometimes they're harder conversations. What popped into my head was when I first opened the store, a man came in, not a customer, just a man, and he sat down and he said, "Well, I'm gonna just sit here and watch you work." Um, so we all have this part of us that wants to do good and maybe please other people or help other people. Now, I would have been helping him in the way of curing his boredom, maybe, or getting him out of the cold, which was not my responsibility, by the way. But in my gut, I'm like, uh, no, this is very uncomfortable. And I had to bounce my first person out of the store. And what that looked like wasn't like, you're creepy, go away, which I probably could have done. But it was like, this made me uncomfortable and I got things to do. I'm not here to be on display, right? Like I had to take my power back. And that's what the renaming is all about. Taking our power or finding our power on the journey. Maybe you don't feel empowered in this moment. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe you are letting the creepy men kind of dictate uh what's happening, right? If I let him stay in there and I let that icky feeling in my gut like grow, all right, now you're gonna know the secret about why I want to teach this and why it's important. But if I let that icky feeling grow, I might have developed resentment, uncomfortableness, anger, frustration. Um, and I did actually do this with a different gentleman that came in the store where I allowed, my gut was telling me this isn't right, this isn't right. Sassy even was indicating this was not the right person in my ecosystem. Even though I was trying to help him and he alleged he was trying to help me. It just wasn't the right fit. It was a bad use of my time. It didn't make me feel good, but yet I went through the process. And what it did was it made me miserable. Um, I didn't do what was best for me in the moment, and then other people around me paid the consequences. And that's another part of this point. So if I'm crabby and biatchy and miserable, and it really was miserable, it impacted my whole Thanksgiving week, my mindset, because I allowed it to. And I had to take my power back from that. And I'll share later in the week about how I took my power back from that. But I had to tell him too, can you please uh, leave my life and stop telling me what to do? And he went away and I felt better. But I also had to repair the damage. And I did that through celebrations. So we'll talk about that too. So, our first thing for today is renaming ourselves. I had wrote down some examples, just kind of making it up, but I want you to think about what do you wish you were stronger at? For my manifestors out there, we learn in that world that we have to be it, feel it, say it, do it first before it happens. Like we have to express gratitude for um having like for 3, 2, 1. I knew that I would have a store. I didn't know it would look like what it looks like, but I had to believe that, feel that, and stay aligned with that uh, for it to happen. Like that's part of the law of manifesting. I won't teach you all of that because I won't claim to be an expert on it, although it's pretty cool stuff. And I think I've been a manifesting queen lately. But that's going to be the same premise with our name. So, do I feel awesome all the time? No. Was I awesome the first time I used it 10, 15 years ago? I remember the first time that it was announced over a microphone. I had won a powder puff mini golf cart championship. And when they called me up for my trophy, I had them announce me at Bobbie the Awesome. Of course, I was a drinking shit show back then. And back then um, it was kind of like a ha ha, but now it's a, oh no, this is what I want to strive to be. So let's say Sassy. Sassy wants to be empowered and feel good. And I'm trying to keep her entertained while she's on my lap. Maybe she has food issues, right? She's a little brat when she has something she really likes and it's hard to take care of her. So maybe she wants to be sassy, the understanding why we want to take away some of the things that shouldn't be in her mouth. So maybe that's what she strives for. It's a bad example because she's a dog, but that's okay. Uh, maybe it's you want to feel more vocal or have a better line of communication. So maybe you want to be, um, you know, Sally, the communicator, the strong communicator, or maybe you're judgy and that's something that holds you back because you're getting all, oh, well, that person's doing this and getting miserable about other people's stuff because you're getting lost in the judging instead of putting your focus on yourself. So maybe in that case, you become, uh, you know, Sally, Sally the compassionate or Sally the stay in my lane, Sally. How's that? Like other people's stuff is none of our business, which is a big part of what gets us in trouble. Uh, there's conversations that I literally start off with, this is none of my business. And I should actually just end the conversation right there. Sometimes curiosity gets the best of me. Sometimes I'm still just a work in progress, but I want you to think about what attribute you want to bring to life this week and practice because we're going to build off of this. We're going to look at what's obstructing us from this attribute or this goal or this quality, and we're going to look at ways to achieve it. So that's the very first thing. Now I want to share with you um, where my notes are. Oh, I had mom's name as Sharon the Powerful, like get her to stand tall and be like, I don't have to answer that phone when it rings. I'm sharing the powerful and I'll do what I want to do when I want to do it. Because mom's like a complete giver. So bringing awareness to this, what's causing us to do this? And there's been, it's been such an interesting month, but I want to share some examples of some some stories I've heard of people putting themselves me first, and some stories where I'm going to be dramatic, like I'm going to tell you kind of the situation, but then kind of talk through the what ifs. And I imagine that we all have these, not these exact situations in our lives, but variations of it. And that's the second piece of what the work is today, is just reflecting, just looking at, is any of this happening? Am I doing this? Am I filling my cup up? Am I being happy? Am I thriving? Or am I just kind of going through the motions? And are we going through the motions because we don't know what we want? Or because we're putting other people before what we want? Why are we going through the motions? Why are we settling? Settling is not in my vocabulary anymore. And hopefully I can share that with you, or some sense of that. Maybe not settling in every situation, but it's important. And it's bigger than a 5-day challenge, right? Like we get into self-worth and beliefs and all the things that go into this. But we're just gonna work on awareness this week. And then maybe, you know that saying, biting, the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. We're going to start with the awareness bite this week. And once we get that, then we can start chewing on the rest of the elephant. Sorry, Mr. Elephant. Okay, so I'm at the post office a couple weeks ago, and I run into this lady. Now, I have no idea how old she is when we first start talking, but we end up start talking, and she's been to over 100 countries. And she's 90, and she's at the post office driving a car, doing the things, healthy, ramping up for her next trip to Mexico. And just, I was in complete awe of her because there was a time when I didn't think I'd make it past 70, never mind 90, and traveling around the world, especially in the most recent times. So very empowered, very happy and thriving. Now, I believe that part of why she's still traveling and doing all these amazing things at 90 is because she's chosen herself and what she wanted to do, which was travel and visit these places and all of that. It's her, it's her fulfillment. Um, then I have another example on the other end of the spectrum. I overheard a conversation the other day. There's a mom, she's in her, I don't know, 60s, I think, maybe late 50s, has a child getting married. And this could be they're getting married, it could be student loans. That's another big one. A lot of parents take on the responsibility of paying for their kids' education, which I understand. You want to do right for the kid, in the sense of not putting that burden on them. You want them to get the best education. You want them to experience college life. You don't want them to have that added pressure. So we're going to talk about that. But in this particular case, the conversation I heard was something like, this mom's child's getting married, and her time, energy, money, focus is going on to this wedding to make it a success for the child. However, she's driving a car that has no heat or air conditioning or defrost or any of it in the winter. She's bundling up like the abominable snowman to get in her car. And that's on a good day. She doesn't have to ask someone else for a ride on the days that it snows or ices or whatever, because she's choosing to use her finances on this wedding instead of her car. Now, it's not about fixing the car or getting a new car or any of that. Why would someone, and I don't know her answers, but and it's not about her answers being right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in this conversation. But this is how my brain played it out. First of all, as someone who paid for her own wedding mostly, I mean, I'm not opposed to getting help, but if the wedding's that important, I'll figure it out, right? Or delay it, or like we don't have to have a wedding at this exact moment or whatever the things are. So there's that piece. Or there's the having the conversation like, it's great you want to get married. I know the traditions, right? Like, because this comes from the mom of the bride having to pay. I would imagine. I'm just making it up. I'm just giving you some context and I'm gonna embellish the storyline to prove the points because what 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 hurt my heart about this situation is how I played it out in my head. Not that I was looking for a negative, but there's so many things that could be done about the wedding. What happens though if mom, who's driving in the winter and all these layers, hot, cold, um, driving in a car that's not comfortable, what if she gets sick? What if she gets so sick she ends up missing the wedding? What was the point of it? That was one angle. Another is, why does this parent, I don't know if it's a more or a less thing, but in this case, it feels like the child's more important than the mother. Why? Why is that true? Why couldn't they be equally important? Wouldn't the daughter's wedding be so much better if mom was there and mom was healthy and mom was safe? So I can't wrap my head around that choice. Now, again, I don't know the whole story. Maybe there's other things I don't know, but as an outsider looking in, because it's one of those none of my businesses, but I needed to use this example to celebrate or to explain the point I'm trying to get across. Here's another one for me. So I go to rehab and I switch jobs when I get out and I go back to a job I used to work. Now, when I worked at the company the first time, the first 10 years, I wanted to be the vice president. I wanted to move ahead. I had all these dreams and goals and objectives, and I would do anything and everything. I would work endless hours. I actually once worked a 36-hour shift, and what it ended up causing me was ugliness because I picked them over me and I had foot problems for years until I discovered Zumba because I worked on a injury because I thought selling flowers was more important than my personal health. I didn't put me first. So anyway, so I had this reputation for being a worker and for like living for the company. And people knew I wanted to move ahead. I wasn't secret about it. So I go back after getting out of rehab, and this is probably the biggest lesson of learning the my me first. So now instead of being peers with another person who is, I'll use workaholic as bad language, but you can understand that point. Now, instead of me staying with her until 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night at the office, well, now I have to go to my recovery meetings. I need to figure out how to live and work in this building right across the street from a casino, mind you, and not gamble. Like, I can't do that by sitting at the office, not getting the right sleep, not filling my cup with outpatient treatment and counseling and going for walks and fresh air and all the things. And she was struggling with it. She was struggling with it. And I remember saying to her, you don't want me working here if I go back to gambling. So let me like work my 9 or 10 hours. Let me go and get my meetings. And by the way, my output's going to be much better because the first time I worked there, even though I was a superstar, didn't mean I didn't sneak out to go to the casino or my priorities were very different. Now my brain was clearer because I took care of me. I was going to group, I was exercising, I was doing the things. Now, when I did work 8 hours, my 8 hours was like 20 hours of work before. When you're hungover and you're fuzzy and you're thinking about either the money associated with gambling or the when can I get there to go chase my next, win or one more bonus round or whatever. My brain was always so busy manipulating the system and doing what I wanted to do to feed the addiction. Well, I was of not much, value because I didn't put me first. And once I decided to work on my recovery, my health, my mental wellness, my physical wellness, going to Zumba, right? Like, oh, like, oh, I don't want to leave. I got to drive all this way. And I would miss Zumba because of what? Staying at the office another half an hour, 45 minutes. Why? It it didn't change the world because I stayed at the office or not. And unfortunately, this person who struggled with me taking care of myself ended up going back to some very harmful behavior after 20 years of not being in harmful behavior because she didn't take care of herself, is my philosophy. So that's the point of us being here today. That's the point of this challenge. And by living in this ecosystem in the store every day, I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing about oh, I can't make it because I'm hearing about I'm working two jobs because my money's going towards XYZ that isn't anything to do with that person. Um, I'm not gonna, if I do, you can yell at me, but my intention isn't to preach like on a soapbox about other people having to take care of themselves or whatever. But I want you to really think about, are you taking care of yourself? And everybody has their own life to live. So I want you to, first of all, I talked about like Zumba and group and going for walks and stuff. What made me happy? What filled my cup? Now, for you, it may be very different. It could be reading. It could be going out with friends. It could be going to watch, having sports tickets. That wasn't a very that wouldn't make me happy. But anyway, it could be leagues, it could be whatever it is that makes you happy. Maybe it's just walking the dog. Maybe it's watching, binging TV. I'm not going to promote that, by the way, but maybe it's one of those things. But think about what makes you happy. Do you have any of that? And you don't have to declare them. I just want you thinking about them, and we'll come back and build on this tomorrow. But what is it? Are you gonna are you gonna be one of those folks that goes, I wish, or are you one of those folks who are like, I wish I did XYZ? Why not do XYZ? And guys, pretend that money, time, forget all those things. What makes you happy? I know for me very clearly, fur babies, 3, 2, 1, going to Blue October concerts. I've made some really interesting choices the last couple of years. People probably think I'm crazy. You went to how many Blue October shows? But here's the thing. I've come to realize that when I am standing at the stage of a Blue October show and I'm listening to the music, the whole rest of the world fades away. I notice that when I take a picture of me before I go to the concert, like I'm glowing, like I'm radiating with the universe, like nothing makes me happier. Maybe Nookie, but in the grand scheme of daily activities, Blue October stuff, music, concerts, being there, watching Justin, who is in recovery and an amazing icon and mentor, um, with his humility and grace and meaning and purpose of life, fills me up. It makes my heart happy. It has nothing to do with like being a groupie or any of that stuff. The bonus is I've met some beautiful people at the shows, and it's like family. We might see each other once a year, but we're like, I don't want to say besties, but when we do get together, we share a meal, we run and get each other's coffee, we hold each other's place in line, we make our experiences even that much better. It's just like we can take care of each other because we take care of ourselves first, right? If I've seen people go to the shows and um, have really not the best experiences. but they're not staying in their lane. They're worried about the other people. Um, they're haters, so to speak. Whatever. I'm digressing. Anyway, okay, to homework. I'm going to circle back here. Uh, my mother just texted me, even though she knows that I'm on this. She's a little older, so we'll forgive her. Um, so we're going to come up with their name. What is it? What attribute do you want to embody, work on? It's not going to be overnight, but let's figure out who we want to be. Let's start there. How can you put yourself first if you don't know what you're working for? So let's rename ourselves, and then I want you to think about what makes you happy. Now, I would love for you to jump in the emerging group where we are. And post your embodiment name of what quality you wish that you had more of, or that you're working towards, and what are some things that make you happy. If you want to share some of them, maybe you'll give some of our other friends in the group some ideas um, that they hadn't thought of. Maybe you want to journal privately and see what the heck is living in your cells that you want to make happy. And that's what we're going to do for today. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you for being here. And mostly, thank you for taking the time for yourselves. You're putting yourself first by being here. So just that is a freaking huge celebration. Woohoo! I love celebrations. All right, beautiful people. Until tomorrow.